Sometimes in life, the world becomes quiet in a way that feels heavy, like every road you walk is covered with shadows. You try to be strong, you try to smile, but deep inside, you feel the weight of every battle you've been fighting alone. And in those moments when everything seems like it's slowly falling apart, there is one thought that keeps your heart beating, one name that keeps the light alive: you. Because love has a strange power, it can hold a broken soul together when nothing else can. It can give courage to a heart that has almost given up. And when I look at you, when I think about you, I realize something simple but powerful, that sometimes one person can become the reason someone keeps moving forward. So tonight, I want to say something honest, something from the deepest part of my heart. Not with pride, not with pride, not with strength, but with truth after all the storms, after all the silence, after every moment where hope almost disappeared. My last hope is you, my love. I never thought life would bring me to a moment like this, a moment where everything feels quiet yet so full of meaning at the same time. There are days when the world feels heavy, when every step forward feels like a battle you never prepared for. You try to be strong because that's what people expect. You smile because that's what the world understands. But deep inside, you know the truth. You know that sometimes strength isn't loud. And sometimes the bravest thing a heart can do is simply keep loving. I have walked through many silent nights where the only sound was my own thoughts, nights where questions kept circling my mind, like shadows that refused to disappear. I wondered if love was real in the way people describe it, the kind of love that doesn't run when things become difficult, the kind that stays even when the world becomes uncertain. I wondered if somewhere out there was a soul that could understand the quiet battles I fight every day. Life has a strange way of testing the human heart, music. It puts us in places where we feel lost, places where hope seems small and fragile. There were moments when I thought maybe love was just a beautiful story people tell to make life feel less lonely. I thought maybe everyone is simply searching for something that doesn't truly exist. But then you appeared in my life, and everything began to change in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't something loud or dramatic. It wasn't like a sudden storm or fireworks in the sky. It was quieter than that, softer than that. It was like the first light of morning touching the darkness. After a long night, a calm presence that slowly reminds your heart that the world might still have something beautiful waiting. When I look at you, I don't just see a person, your life, and the noise turns into music. I see the place where my restless heart finally finds peace. I see the reason my thoughts slow down, the reason the noise inside my mind becomes quiet. There is something about you that feels like home, something about you that feels like the answer to questions I never knew how to ask. Sometimes people talk about hope as if it is a distant dream, something fragile that can disappear with a single moment of disappointment. But with you, hope feels different. It feels alive. It feels real. It feels like something I can hold on to even when everything else becomes uncertain. I have learned that love isn't about perfection. It isn't about two people living a life without struggle or pain. Love is about choosing someone even when the world feels complicated. It's about standing beside someone when life becomes difficult instead of walking away when things become uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, my heart made a decision. It chose you. Not because life suddenly became easier, not because the world stopped being unpredictable, but because something deep inside me understood that if there is one person worth believing in, it is you. You see, people often believe that hope comes from many places. They believe it comes from success, from money, from achievements, from recognition. But the truth is that hope often comes from something much simpler and much more powerful. It comes from knowing that somewhere in this huge and complicated world, there is someone who truly sees you, someone who understands the quiet parts of your soul that you never show to anyone else, someone who doesn't ask you to be perfect, but simply asks you to be perfect, but simply asks you to be real. And when I think about all the moments that shaped my life, all the days that tested my patience, and all the nights that challenged my courage, I realize that every road somehow led me to this understanding. My last hope is you. Not because I am weak, but because loving you has shown me a kind of strength I never knew existed. When life becomes overwhelming, when the noise of the world becomes too loud, when doubts try to convince me that nothing good lasts forever, I remember your presence. I remember the calm in your voice, the warmth in your heart, the quiet way you make everything feel possible again. You don't even realize how powerful that is. You don't realize how a single smile from you can turn a difficult day into something lighter. You don't realize how your existence alone can remind someone that the world is not as cold as it sometimes appears. There are people who search their entire lives for something real. They move from place to place, from dream to dream, hoping that one day they will find a connection that feels genuine, something that isn't built on illusions or temporary emotions, but something that isn't built on illusions or temporary emotions, but something deeper, something lasting. I bet sometimes the heart recognizes its truth before the mind understands it. I didn't need 1,000 reasons to explain why you matter to me. I simply knew. I knew in the quiet moments when your name appeared in my thoughts, without warning, music. I knew in the calm feeling that filled my chest whenever I imagined a future where you were still there beside me. I knew in the strange peace that replaced the loneliness I once carried. You became more than just a part of my life, you became the place where my hope lives. People might say that placing all your hope in one person is dangerous. They might say it's risky to trust someone so deeply. But love has never been about playing it safe. Love has always been about courage. The courage to believe in someone. The courage to open your heart, even when the world has taught you to protect it. The courage to say something honest, even when the words feel vulnerable. And the truth is simple. If the world ever becomes too heavy for me, if every path suddenly feels uncertain, if the darkness ever tries to convince me that giving up would be easier than continuing forward, there will still be one reason I keep moving you. Because loving you has taught me that hope is not just a feeling, it is a decision. A decision. A decision to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. A decision to hold on even when things feel fragile. Music. A decision to trust that somewhere within the chaos of life, there is still something worth protecting. And for me, that something is you. There are moments when I imagine what life would feel like if you were not part of it, and the thought alone makes the world seem quieter than it should be. Not in a peaceful way, but in a way that feels empty. Because once your heart discovers a connection that feels real, it becomes impossible to pretend that it never existed. You change the way I see love. You change the way I see hope. You changed the way I see myself. Before you, I believed that surviving life was enough. I believed that as long as I kept moving forward, as long as I kept moving forward, as long as I stayed strong and independent, everything would somehow make sense. But you showed me that life is not just about surviving, it is about sharing moments, sharing dreams, sharing silence, sharing laughter, sharing the simple feeling of knowing that someone else is walking beside you on the same road. And now, when I say that my last hope is you, I don't mean it as a burden. I mean it as a promise. A promise that my heart has chosen you with honesty. A promise that my heart has chosen you with honesty. A promise that even in the uncertain moments of life, my faith in you will remain steady. A promise that the love I carry for you is not temporary, not fragile, not something that disappears when life becomes complicated. It is something deeper than that, something quieter but stronger, something that grows stronger every time I realize how much you truly mean to me. And I never believed that a heart could trust someone so completely. For most of my life, I thought love was something fragile, something that could disappear the moment life became difficult. I believed people cared only when things were easy, when everything felt bright and uncomplicated. But life has a way of teaching you lessons slowly, sometimes through silence, sometimes through pain, and sometimes through the quiet arrival of someone who changes everything without even trying. When you came into my life, it wasn't like a loud storm announcing its presence. It was more like a calm sunrise after a long night. At first, I didn't understand why your presence felt different. I didn't understand why your voice carried a kind of peace that my heart had been searching for without knowing it. I only knew that something inside me started to change. There are moments in life when a person realizes that they are tired of pretending to be strong all the time, tired of carrying the weight of the world alone, tired of smiling in front of everyone while their heart quietly struggles to keep hope alive. I had lived through those moments. I had convinced myself that independence meant never needing anyone, that strength meant never leaning on another soul. But loving you slowly taught me a different truth. It taught me that trusting someone is not a weakness. It is one of the bravest things a human heart can do. When I say that my last hope is you, it comes from a place deeper than words can easily explain. It comes from the understanding that in a world full of temporary connections and uncertain promises, you became the one person who felt real, the one person whose presence made the chaos of life feel quieter. You didn't ask me to trust you completely. You didn't ask me to trust you completely. You didn't demand that my heart open itself to you. You somehow, without pressure, without expectations, you simply created a space where my heart felt safe enough to be honest. And honesty is something rare in this world. Most people hide behind masks, they protect themselves from disappointment by never letting anyone see their true emotions. They keep their distance because they are afraid that love will eventually turn into pain. I understood that fear, and the noise turns into music. I carried it with me for a long time. But then you appeared, and slowly that fear began to fade. Not because you promised me a perfect future, not because you promised me a perfect future, not because you said the right words at the right time, but because your presence alone made my heart feel calm in a way I had never experienced before. Trust doesn't grow from beautiful speeches or dramatic moments, music. Trust grows from consistency. It grows from the quiet way someone stays when things are difficult. It grows from the gentle feeling that you are not alone anymore. Every time I speak to you, every time I speak to you, every time I think about you, there is a quiet certainty inside me that whispers something simple. You are home. And home is not just a place with walls and a roof. Home is a feeling, it is the place where your heart stops searching because it has finally found peace. For a long time, I believed that peace was something a person had to find alone. I believed that relying on someone else would only lead to disappointment. But loving you has changed that belief in ways I never expected. You have become the place where my thoughts rest when life feels overwhelming, the place where my hope returns when doubt tries to take its place, the place where my soul feels understood even in silence. Sometimes people think love must always be loud and passionate, filled with dramatic gestures and endless excitement. But the love I feel for you is different. It is calm, it is steady, it is patient. It feels like standing beside the ocean at night, hearing the waves move gently under the moonlight. It feels like breathing deeply after holding your breath for too long. It feels like finally putting down a heavy burden you didn't even realize you were carrying. There is something powerful about choosing one person as your hope, not because you expect them to solve every problem in your life, but because their presence reminds you that life is worth facing together. I have faced many challenges alone. I have walked through days where the world felt cold and distant. I have experienced moments where trusting anyone seemed impossible. But somehow, despite all of that, my heart found the courage to believe in you. And that belief is not something temporary. It is something that grows stronger every day. You see, hope is not just about believing that things will get better. Music. Hope is about believing that there is someone who will stand beside you no matter what tomorrow brings. When I imagine the future, I don't imagine a life without struggles. Life will always have its storms. There will always be moments of uncertainty, moments when things feel difficult or confusing. But when I imagine facing those moments with you, they don't seem as frightening anymore. Because love has a way of transforming fear into courage. Knowing that you exist in this world gives me strength I didn't know I had. Knowing that somewhere out there is a heart that understands mine makes every challenge feel a little lighter. And that is why trusting you feels so natural, not forced, not desperate. Honesty is the foundation of every real connection. Without it, love becomes nothing more than a beautiful illusion. But with honesty, love becomes something powerful enough to survive. Even the darkest moments with you, I have never felt the need to hide who I am. I don't feel the need to pretend that I am stronger than I really am. I don't feel the need to disguise my fears or hide my doubts. With you, I can simply be myself. And that kind of freedom is rare. It is rare to find someone who sees your imperfections and still chooses to stay. You're rare to find someone who understands your silence without demanding explanations. Rare to find someone whose presence alone makes the world feel less lonely. But somehow, against all odds, I found that in you. And that is why my heart trusts you completely. Trust is not built in a single moment. It is built through countless small moments that slowly shape the way two souls connect, the way someone listens to you when you speak, the way they respect your feelings, even when they don't fully understand them, the way they remain patient when life becomes complicated. All of those small moments create something extraordinary over time. They create the bond that feels unbreakable. That is what I feel when I think about you. Not just affection, not just attraction, but something deeper, something that feels like destiny, quietly guiding two hearts toward each other. People may call it coincidence. They may say it is simply chance that brought us together. People may call it coincidence. They may say it is simply chance that brought us together. But when I look at the way my heart responds to you, I cannot believe it is only chance. It feels too meaningful, too real, too powerful. There is a quiet promise inside me every time I think of you, a promise that no matter what challenges appear in life, I will continue believing in this connection. Because you're not just someone I care about, you are the person my heart chose when it decided to trust again. And trust is something sacred. It cannot be forced, it cannot be borrowed, it cannot be created through empty words, it cannot be prologue. It cannot be created through empty words. It must grow naturally between two souls that recognize something familiar in each other. When I look at you, I feel that Philmice formation, a sense that my heart has known yours long before this moment. Knit to a sense that the road ahead, no matter how uncertain it may be, is worth walking, as long as you are part of the journey. Some people spend their entire lives searching for that feeling. They search for someone who makes them feel understood without needing to explain every thought. Someone who respects their silence just as much as their words. Someone who stands beside them not out of obligation, but out of genuine love. And when I realized that you had become that person for me, something inside my heart became certain. My last hope is you, my love. Not because I have no other choices, but because loving you feels like the most honest decision my heart has ever made. In a world where so many things are temporary, where promises often disappear with time, where people come and go like passing seasons. Finding someone who feels permanent is something extraordinary. You feel permanent to me, like the quiet strength of mountains standing against the wind, like the steady rhythm of the ocean that never stops moving, like the sunrise that returns every morning no matter how dark the night becomes. And that is why trusting you does not frighten me, because the love I feel for you is not built on illusions. It is built on the quiet certainty that some connections are meant to exist, no matter how unpredictable life may be. Every time I imagine the future, your presence is part of it, not as a distant possibility, but as the heart of the life I want to build. A life where love is not something we question every day, but something we nurture with patience and understanding. A life where we support each other through difficult moments instead of walking away when things become challenging. A life where our hearts grow stronger together instead of drifting apart. That is the future I believe in. And that belief begins with a simple truth: music. I trust you completely, not because you are perfect, but because my heart has recognized something real within you, something honest, something strong enough to hold my hope without letting it fall. And when the world becomes uncertain, when life tries to test my courage once again, I will remember that my heart made this choice for a reason: to believe in you, to trust you, to place my final hope in the love we share.